Joining us now is the senator from the great state of Arkansas, Tom Cotton. Senator, I'm not going to ask you about the House. I assume you left for a reason, so I'm not going to ask you about what's going on in the House. I do want to ask you quickly, the Senate Leadership Challenge, was that about the midterms? Is there some deeper issue, and will the senators be able to put it behind them going into the new year?
Well, I did leave the House trap for just 2 years. I remember about 3 or 4 months in, people like you and Jim Jordan and others were encouraging me to run for the Senate. I thought you had a lot of confidence in me, but then I began to realize maybe you were just trying to get me out of your hair since you stuck around for another 6 years in the House of Representatives. Look, we had very good, frank conversations. Those were private deliberations. Obviously, the race was settled. We re-elected Mitch McConnell as our Republican leader and a whole slate of Republican leaders in slots 2 through 6. One thing we all agreed on coming out of those conversations this past week is that we still need to focus on the election that's remaining in 2022, and that's the runoff in Georgia with Herschel Walker. There's a big difference between having a 50-50 Senate, as we've seen over the last 2 years, and having a Senate that's 51-49, giving the Democrats much easier control of the agenda. You remember what it was like when I was in the House with you in 2013 and 14 with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president. It's tough enough if you have an evenly divided Senate, but it's even tougher for Kevin McCarthy and the House Republicans with a majority Democratic Senate. So we all really need to focus over these next 2+ weeks on helping elect Herschel Walker in Georgia.
All right, Senator, it looked like a tough electoral map for Republicans this time around. 2024 looks a little bit better. I mean, I know we don't want to take anything for granted, but the future looks a little bit better in 2024. Is there any chance at all the acrimony, if there is acrimony, persists, or you think the conference is unified going forward?
I think largely unified, Trey. Again, I saw the reports about anger and tension in our private conversations. I didn't sense that at all. People who did, I have to say, have a pretty low threshold for anger and tension. I saw a lot worse in my days in the Army. You're right, though, about the 2024 election. Once we get through this runoff in Georgia and hopefully elect Herschel Walker, Democrats are going to be competing in 2024 in states like West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Montana, New Mexico. One thing that I think the new congressional Republican majority in the House should focus on, that we'll want to focus on in the Senate, is helping restore America's energy independence. All those states I just mentioned to you, in addition to having Democratic senators, also produce a lot of energy, whether it's coal or oil or natural gas. We need to begin to restore America's energy independence, which will help bring down the prices, not just for your home heating bill and filling up at the gas pump, but the prices for everything. I think that will do a lot to help Americans if we can help get the focus back on America's energy independence.
All right, I want to ask you about your book, Decline by Design, Intentional Rather Than Incompetent. However people want to phrase it, it seems like your argument is that there is intentionality on the left in the positions they take that are resulting in the decline of our country.
Yeah, Trey, in Only the Strong, I lay out the case that going back 100 years, liberal Democrats have had a lot of doubts about especially American power. At best, they're ambivalent about American power and oftentimes are openly hostile to it. And I mean that in all of its aspects: military strength, energy independence, strong sovereign borders, a strong network of alliances around the world that give us freedom of action. So what you see in the sense of decline many Americans have, I argue in Only the Strong, is not an accident. This is something the Democrats have intentionally pursued, especially in the presidencies of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. To go back to the energy issue, Joe Biden has repeatedly promised that we're going to end fossil fuel production in America. We're no longer going to mine coal. We're no longer going to drill for oil and gas. So when you're paying $3 and $4 or $5 a gallon, as people were earlier this year, for a tank of gas or a gallon of gas at the pump, that's not an accident. That's not bad luck. That's what the Democrats want to achieve. When you see our military falling below, say, 3% of the total economy of America, barely half of what it was at the end of the Reagan buildup. Again, that's not an accident. That's a choice that the Democrats have made for decades because they are at best ambivalent about American power here at home and our role in the world.
Tom Cotton, prolific author and a conservative who went to Harvard. So I'm sure that Senate meeting did not hurt your feelings at all, because you've been through a lot tougher things than a lunch in the Senate rotunda. Tom Cotton from the great state of Arkansas, thank you for being here.